the first lessons that we learn in life, and they stay with us. And with you, you're talking about your mom with reverence. Yury, nice seeing you.
Hello, Judge. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So we're here today, here in Miami, and I'm flattered to be here sitting with you because, first of all, I'm a huge fan of you as a person and the show that you have, which is unbelievable. But what actually I'm really, I was always very attracted to your aura is the advice that you actually always gave in court to the people that were coming to your court. So that's actually something that really attracted my attention: the love and the closeness that you were having with each of them that were in court.
There appears to be a lack of compassion and understanding and friendship in the world. You know, everyone has their own little interest, and they don't share that with other people, but particularly people who are in positions of authority. You know, there's such a disconnect between people who are in authority and people who don't have that authority. And I think that it's a shame that we don't treat people with more respect and understanding and compassion, particularly if we're in a position that socially is above them, or financially, or professionally, or whatever it might be, you know. And that's why I always try to treat people like I was them. I placed myself in their situation and figured out how would I want to be treated. And that's been the genesis of court in Providence.
What have you perceived? Let's say you've been doing this for such a very long time. There's been an escalation, a change, an evolution. What do you think is the cause now of less respect than maybe versus 20, 30, 40 years ago? Do you think the social media created that?
That's a good question. Social media, I think mass media, you know, may have a big part of it, because we don't see mass media, particularly and social media, addressing concerns, understanding, patience. You know, a lot of it is violent, and I don't think that lends itself to a peaceful society.
What do you think would be the solution?
It all begins in the family unit. The basic unit of society is the family unit. But you're not going to get people who are in their 30s and 40s who all of a sudden change their way of thinking about other people. Well, this has to start from the ground up, from young people, you know, and particularly in families. Family unit is so very, very important. In my situation, my entire temperament was gauged by my parents. You know, my father was a very understanding guy, always says, help people if you can. My mother, if people in the neighborhood were hungry, she'd cook for them. That's what I saw. And that was my point of reference. That was my point of focus, you know. I think that may be lacking in our society today.
So we have something in common, because even though I was born in Africa, I come from Italian heritage, and so are you. Do you think the Italian heritage gave you a good understanding of what you have became afterwards?
It gave me a great understanding, a great foundation, a great beginning. You know, it was very simple stuff. You know, it's not complex at all. I mean, at the end of the day, it's being nice to people.
That is the bottom line.
Placing yourself in their situation, how would you want to be dealt with? How would you want to be treated? You know? But many times, unfortunately, it happens, it's human nature. People in positions of authority think they have to use their authority, you know, for purposes that aren't so good. Instead of using their authority to help others, they're looking to help themselves, unfortunately. There's nothing wrong with helping yourself, but you have to take other people into consideration, and you can't do it at the risk of threatening other people.
A big ego.
Right.
Big ego. Big ego. Well, what I did after the death of my mom, I wanted to continue the legacy of the family and what my mom has done in Africa, and helping kids and so forth. As you say very well, it comes within the family and the fundamentals of the family. And that's what I believe my mom and my father had given me, those real values that in a well-developed country like, let's say, America, we're a little bit spoiled. And we get into that rhythm of being spoiled, and we don't really realize what simplicity it's anymore. So my mom had always leveled me. Whether we were in the States, whether we were in Europe, Italy, and so forth, or Africa, always made sure I was leveled, and that I would always appreciate what I had and respect everybody, regardless if they were simple people or kings, let's say. So treat everybody in the same way. So after my mom passed, I wanted to continue a legacy of helping and giving this huge respect, and if we are a little bit more fortunate, give back to people less fortunate. So I created the Alessandro Bettoni Foundation, as you know very well, with a clothing line, which is called GoSymba. So I'm very proud of the clothing line because my mom always wanted to have a clothing line. I created it afterwards for her. And GoSymba is a very interesting name because it comes from Simba, which is lion in Swahili. We spent a lot of time in Tanzania, even though we were all born in Ethiopia and Eritrea. My parents in Eritrea, I was born in Ethiopia. And GoSymba, it's a lion that has an energy of going forward and giving. That's why it was called GoSymba. The lion is the Lion of Judah, used to be on the flag of Ethiopia, and basically symbolizes strength. And putting both things together, it gives the continuity of the strength of my mother in giving back, pretty much.
You say this conversation revolves around the family unit. The family unit is the basic unit of society. And what comes from the family unit, particularly at a young age, stays with us for life, because those are the first lessons that we learn in life, and they stay with us. And with you, you're talking about your mom with reverence. You know, now how many people growing up today, you know, they say, well, we didn't have a good childhood, or whatever the case might be. But the family unit is so very important, you know. And as you were talking, I was thinking of the influence that your mom had on you, and how that's benefited so many other people as well, because of her example.
Pretty much what you're saying is right, because there's lots of African families that we touched physically, basically, that they were good families with good fundamentals, good values, but they did not have, or they still don't have, the means to exceed. So my foundation, the Alessandro Bettoni Foundation, through the capsules, and the clothing line is one of the capsules, the revenue will be going for the kids of Ethiopia and Tanzania to help with the primary needs, food, water, or also clothing, so that I give them a little bit of help, but at the same time a future that eventually, where I produce the shirts, the shorts, the hats, I can incorporate the kids into the companies where I buy my clothing. So I guide them and help him coming out from a hole, let's say, and give him a little bit of a direction with a little bit of education and instruction.
What age do you start them at?
Well, it's not an actual age, it's kids that actually are in need. Pretty much, you know, it's any age once they're born. But let's say 4, 5, 6, if you help them by empowering them with a sport, getting through them by teaching them a sport, could be tennis, being a professional, former professional tennis player, give them something to look up. So they see a good tennis player playing, you take him out on the court, you make him play a little bit, maybe you emphasize something into them.
You give them a skill.
You give them a skill. A marathon, they're all huge runners, but they don't have the shoes. Maybe buy them shoes, organize a marathon, and make them feel, touch something different. Because until today, they run without shoes. They don't complain, No one of these kids complains. This is what amazes me, because I grew up in Africa and I used to play with all the kids. And I remember one day riding the bicycle, putting a kid on the bicycle, and I don't know what had happened. He fell off the bicycle and he bounced. He was a 4-year-old kid and he bounced off the bicycle. I stopped the bicycle, I went there to get him, and I thought I had broken him up. He stood up, and the first thing he did, you know what it was? He smiled at me and he touched me. Without judging, but we judge a little bit, here in a civilized country, a little kid slightly falls, nothing happens, and he cries for hours. So you see that this little African kid is just happy to be around a certain environment. And he doesn't care about anything else. He doesn't feel the pain or nothing whatsoever. So creating an event, creating something by giving back, it will probably show them that life can be also different from what they've seen, and the brain can start thinking, and you empower them. It's just a way to empower them and make them feel that they can also do something.
That's wonderful that you expend that kind of energy to help these young kids. My father had a saying. He says, you never stand so tall as when you stoop to help another. You never stand so tall as when you stoop to help another. And that's what you do. You know, when in my courtroom, many times young kids would come in, you know, and the courtroom is a very intimidating experience. There's a judge with a robe, there's a cop with a gun, there's a paneled courtroom, you know, and that's the first impression that that youngster is going to have of the judicial system. And that's why I make an extra special effort to show kindness, consideration, and compassion to the youngster, and even incorporate them in making my decision. How would you decide your father's case? Would you say he's guilty or not guilty? And it works. It's interesting how it works out, but to incorporate them in the experience, and it's really worked wonders.
You know what amazed me from the show that I've seen? And as I said, and I repeat, I was always looking forward to eventually meet you one day, because you put everybody at peace. Everybody looked at you with love because you created a bond, an energy that everybody was at peace, and you were very close and loving. Even though you were following the law, but you made them be at peace. We're going to wrap it up pretty soon. We're creating, the last thing that I wanted to say, I'm very proud of where we're creating this platform, where this foundation and GoSymba is going to live. And basically, it's everything done in Africa. The platform will be done in South Africa.
The foundation is called GoSymba.
The foundation is the Alessandro Bettoni Foundation, and GoSymba is the actual clothing line that is a clothing line.
You have that on your hat.
That's on the hat, and that's on the shirt.
And
then we're going to have also wristbands, socks, and shorts. And probably even a pickleball bag. We'll see now. And basically this one is going to, the foundation and the clothing line will be living on this platform that we're creating in South Africa, because I want to keep everything in Africa as to be 100% Africa, because we're helping the kids of Africa. And it's going to have everything that I've done in tennis, my history and so forth, the foundation and the philosophy of the foundation, and the GoSymba, which is going to be the shop where people can purchase, and they purchase with a meaning. Means that they buy into a story. And what I want, or I would like to have, is that the people that buy into the shirt are people that buy into this vision that I have. It's not about the shirt. It can be nice, people might like it, but there's a lots of stylists out there. I cannot call myself a stylist. I'm just putting out there something that people can read about and they can buy into it to give back for a cause. That's basically, in a nutshell, what is the foundation and the clothing line.
And that's what a good life is all about, giving back to others, particularly those that are less fortunate than yourself.
You know, I see that lots of people, they work hard, they succeed in whatever is their craft, whether it's sports, whether it's business, and then they forget where they're coming from.
They're very selfish.
And this is hurtful because they become plastic. And they start throwing around money and you see this in cities like Miami, unfortunately, and they forget that there's less fortunate people that with 1/10 of what they probably have spent at a normal restaurant, these people can live a year.
Right.
And this is very sad. And this is what actually this foundation and the clothing line tries to transmit to people, that it's good to have money, we all need money to live, but a little bit can be even given. If you're so lucky that you can make money from your craft, a little bit can go also for people less fortunate, whatever is the purpose, but for people less fortunate. And for instance, I have now a player that I'm sponsoring with my clothing line, and part of his revenue will be donating to the foundation. And I told him, part of the contract, if you don't donate part of the revenue of your winnings to the foundation,
You're out.
you're out in a very unique way. We're going to take all the clothing that I gave you, we're going to go to the less fortunate people, and you're going to give everything that I gave you to each of those less fortunate people.
Wow.
It's not about paying back the clothing, because that's nothing. It's about understanding that when you're lucky that you can make some money, part of that has to go for the less fortunate people.
Unless you share it with somebody else for their well-being.
Of course.
Then what good is it?
Of course. Of course.
That's such a laudable goal. Well, congratulations on doing that.
Thank you, Judge.
You have a good heart.
Thank you, Judge.
Good luck.
Frank, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good luck.